Colleen, I know for sure, is not going to be here. Are we on?
Yep.
Oh, we are. Okay, great. All right, so we'll call the meeting to order. It is 6:02 on April 20th. We're going to start immediately with a non-public. I'm going to make a motion that the board by roll call go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91A32A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, and RSA 91A32C to discuss a matter which, discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of a person other than a member of the body or agency itself. So I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. So we'll do a roll call. We'll start with you, Karen.
Karen, aye.
Kelly, aye.
And Ken, aye. So 3-0, we're in non-public. Thanks. Okay. So we are out of non-public. We're back in our typical public setting. We'll start with agenda adjustments.
We have one agenda adjustment. I failed to add the memo for pre-K. Remember, we had discussed it last month about increasing those rates, and we're going to vote this month. So when we get to deliberations, I'll hand Kelly's memo out and review that again. The second thing is just more, if the board would like, I know we have some people to listen about the curriculum tool EPIC discussion. If you'd like, we could move that right up after the principal's report, because the principal is going to present that information. Is that acceptable? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
That's it for agenda adjustments.
Great. So next, we're going to, I'm sorry, we have correspondence, resignations, nominations.
Mm-hmm. I have a couple of resignations tonight, so we'll take these one at a time. After I read the resignation, we'll take a motion in a second and then vote. I'm writing to tender my resignation as discussed with Amanda Moran. I intend to continue my position as a case manager until the end of the 21-22 academic year. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to teach at Captain Samuel Douglas Academy. The lessons I've learned at CSDA will remain with me for the rest of my life. I can truly say that I'm a better educator for my time here, and that comes to us from Thomas Elmer.
Okay. So we're going to do each one of these?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Thomas Elmer at CSDA with an effective date of end of school year. Can I say end of school year?
Correct.
Okay, end of school year.
Second.
Seconded by Karen. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Reluctantly.
Reluctantly.
4-0, thank you.
Yep. The second one, I'm writing this letter to inform you that I am not accepting a teaching contract for the upcoming 22-23 school year for my music teaching position at Captain Samuel Douglas Academy, and will complete my time in the Brookline School District effective June 30th, 2022. It has been an absolute pleasure serving the town of Brookline and Captain Samuel Douglas student population for the past 15 years, as well as an exceptional learning experience for me, but I feel that it has come time for me to move on. Your support and guidance has been wonderful throughout this time, and I will be forever grateful for this, and I will always look back on my time here with great fondness and wonderful memories. It is so desired needed. I am more than willing to help the next person so they can hit the ground running, and that is from Christina Catino.
Okay, so I will make a motion to accept the resignation of Christina Catino as of June 30th, 2022 at CSDA School. I'm sorry, resignation of Christina Catino at CSDA with an effective date of June 30th, 2022.
Second.
Thank you. Any further? Put to a vote. All those in favor? 4-0, thank you.
Dear Mrs. Boulay, please accept this letter as my formal notice of resignation from my position as a sixth grade teacher at Captain Samuel Douglas Academy at the end of the 21-22 school year. This decision was difficult to make, but necessary to meet the current needs of my family. I appreciate the opportunity to serve in this position over the last 6 years. It has been a privilege teaching in this community, and that comes from Brittany Hicks.
Okay, I will make a motion to accept the resignation of Brittany Hicks at the end of the school year at CSDA with an effective date of end of school year. I butchered that. Is that good enough?
Okay, Donna, clean it up.
All right, clear as
Second.
second. Thank you. All in favor? Okay,
Gutted.
4-0.
Absolutely, with deep regrets.
Yes.
Dear Mr. Corey, please accept my resignation from my position as a third grade teacher at Richard Mahakia Memorial School. My last day will be June 30th, 2022. As a first-year teacher, I appreciate the opportunity that you gave me to begin my teaching career within the Hollis Brookline school districts. My students have given me great pleasure this past year, and the staff has been very supportive during my year with the school district. I wish you all the best. If I can be of any assistance to you during the remainder of the term, please let me know. And that comes from Kiana Brown.
Okay, I will make a motion to accept the resignation of Kiana Brown at
Second.
RMMS.
I'm sorry.
No problem, at RMMS effective June 30th, 2022. And seconded by Allison. All in favor? 4-0, thank you.
Next one is a retirement letter. After teaching in Brookline for so many years, it is my intent to retire effective June 30th, 2022. And that comes to us from Monica Bovert from the RMMS art teacher.
Okay, I will make a motion to accept the letter of intent to retire received from Monica Bovert with an effective date of June 30th, 2022. Seconded by Karen. All in favor? 4-0. Thank you.
Now I have a series of nominations.
Okay.
The first one is for Emma Danis, Danais, to be a third grade teacher at RMMS. She has her bachelor's in educational studies and Spanish from UNH, and her master's in elementary education also from UNH. She will be joining us at Master's Step 2 for a salary of $47,999.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Emma Danis for the position of third grade RMMS at a master's step 2 and a salary of $47,999.
Second.
Seconded by Karen. All in favor? 4-0, thank you.
The next nomination is for Sarah Getchell, Getchell. She'll be a sixth grade teacher at CSDA. She has her bachelor's in elementary ed and Spanish from Keene State. She will be at bachelor's step 1 for $40,030.
All right, I will make a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Sarah Getchell for the position of sixth grade CSDA teacher at a bachelor step 1 at a salary of $40,030.
Second.
Seconded by Karen. Any further discussion? All in favor? 4-0.
Next nomination is for Heather Hoffs, Hoefs, for a second grade teaching position at RMMS. She has her bachelor's in psychology and child development from New England College and her master's in elementary education from Southern New Hampshire University. She'll be joining us at master's step 7 for $55,645.
55,645,
45.
thank you. All right, I will make a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Heather Hoffs for the position of second grade RMMS at a master's step 7 and a salary of $55,645.
Second.
Seconded by Karen. Any further discussion? All in favor? 4-0.
Next is a nomination for Melissa Palmer, Palmer, for fifth grade at CSDA. She has her bachelor's in elementary ed and sociology from Bridgewater State and her master's in elementary education from Bridgewater State as well. She'll be joining us at master's step 10 for a salary of $60,804.
Okay. I will make a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Melissa Palmer for the position of fifth grade CSDA at a master's step 10 and a salary of $60,804.
Second.
Second by Karen. Any further discussion? All in favor? 4-0.
And lastly for tonight is Caroline Prudhomme, Prudhomme, for second grade at RMMS. She has her bachelor's from elementary education from Riviere College. So she'll be at bachelor's step 1 for $40,030.
Okay, make a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Carol Prudhomme for the position of second grade RMMS at a bachelor step 1 and a salary of $40,030.
Second.
Second by Karen. Any further discussion? All in favor? 4-0.
Okay. Just one piece of correspondence. I just want to let the board know that we are reviewing art and music because we happen to have an opening at each building, and looking at the feasibility of having one art teacher and one music teacher serve both buildings. As you know, we've been doing that with 4 part-time people, and every so many years, we encounter that we've trained them, we've got them all prepared, and they leave for a full-time job. So Dan and Tricia are looking at the master schedules to see if that will work at that level. We're looking through the business office at the financial end of that, and we'll be coming back with a recommendation in May.
Great. Thanks.
And that's it for nominations, resignations, and correspondence. Oh, I take that back, pardon me. The other piece that is there is it's on the agenda, the Brookline Teachers Union Tent to Bargain. Dear Mr. Haig, this is to inform you that the Brookline Teachers Association, NEA New Hampshire, desires to bargain a master contract for the contract school year beginning July 1st, 2023. This notification is in accordance with the requirements of RSA 273-A:3. Members of the negotiations team would like to gather with the representatives from the school board to set the ground rules and dates for meetings. And we can contact Karen Pillion in May or June, and Karen is the president of the association, and I believe that a copy of that was also sent to Chairman Haig.
Yep. Thank you. And we'll get to it around committees, but Karen and I will be. Nope, Colleen and I. Thank you for giving me the eyes. I better pull that out before I talk any further then.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for that. So that was a lot of nominations after a fair amount of departures. Do you think at some point in the summer we can do another org chart so we can, thank you. Great. Okay, so we're going to move to approval of minutes. So the first one is the organizational meeting on March 23rd, 2022. The following amendments were offered. Page 6, line 43, insert a period at the end of the sentence. Page 8, line 30, insert a backward parenthesis at the end of the sentence. And page 9, line 11, replace is not with not being. I'll make a motion to accept as amended. Second by Karen. Any conversation on that? Okay, put it to a vote. All in favor? 4-0. Great. Okay, so that brings us to public input. I'm going to just quickly read our public input policy, and that's policy BEDH. The board will provide a maximum of 15 minutes to hear public comments from residents at the beginning of each regular board meeting. This period may be extended by a majority vote by the board. Additionally, the board may include additional public comment period for specific agenda items with a time limit for public comment specified on the pertinent agenda. Individual speakers will be allotted 3 minutes per person. Speakers may not relinquish allotted time to another speaker. For specific meetings and/or specific agenda items, the board may, at the outset of the public comment period, increase the individual time limit for all speakers. With that, we've got a group here. I'm assuming some people want to talk. If you could please come up to that microphone there, and if you could just say your name and your street that you live on so we can identify that as a town resident, we'd appreciate that. And the floor is yours. If there is any. If there's not, that's okay too. Yep, come on right to that one. If you could just say your name real quick and street, thank you.
I'm Candace Cunha, 1 Baldwin Drive. Hello, everybody. Okay, so I just wanted to address you all today to speak to the topic of the EPIC app, which is on your agenda tonight, which we use in our classrooms as an aid. And aid might be the wrong term here, but that's what I'm using for reading. I know that I saw and still do see a huge value in this fun e-tool, so much value that a few years ago I invested in the full use of the app, as it was really handy when the kids were reading, especially during the COVID times, because it was easily accessible to use books that were targeted to their and tailored to their reading levels. Recently, some content came to light that is accessible within a few clicks of EPIC that can be classified as inappropriate and borders on downright sexual in nature. While I know that is not our school's intent, not the teachers, not you guys here at the board, not the district, but here we are. I'm truly shocked that this is being presented to young children. It seems that they have kind of shoved all modesty and values right out the window, they being the people who make the EPIC or allow the content on there. I wanted to speak briefly as to why I feel that the use of EPIC and possibly other things that our district has previously approved need to be better looked at. EPIC is a one-size-fits-all program, and we have a diverse community of parents where not everyone is comfortable with the content of which is available to their child, and especially not in a school setting. EPIC had a book where the target audience is ages 0 to 5 that goes over the ABCs, where it states S is for sex and T is for transgender. I've previously submitted this and some other books to the board via an email, and I don't think we need to get into all the fine details. Content in any nature of a sexual topic, of which includes this fantasy idea that anyone, never mind a child, can choose their gender, does not belong in a school setting. Examples of another book where gender choosing of a child were also submitted in another email to the board of a book titled Jack, Not Jackie. There needs to be a set of safeguards to protect our children, and I'm sure you all can appreciate that. Aside from anatomical education and health class, which has no place in our younger classrooms, no student should be presented with any sexual identity information, heterosexual or otherwise. This borders on sexual harassment for this information to be shown to students via books and other media about sex and sexuality. Now, I understand that this is not being shown. This is not part of our curriculum, but it is available via this 4,000 plus e-library that EPIC is. And I'm sure there might be some other district-approved e-content where data is pushed on a regular basis from the publishers and other that needs to be relooked at. My point here is not to disapprove of somebody's lifestyle or their personal choices. If a parent so chooses to read some of the books available on EPIC in this topic to their child, they can do so in their home setting. But they don't need to be promoted on a banner, which April's banner, within a few clicks you can access these books, is used in a well-liked, popular children's app that our teachers use. Access to these ebooks on EPIC specifically, as well as other similar books and media of this nature, are for three things. 1, for grooming of sexual preference. 2, sexual harassment for the discussion about sexual topics to minors. And 3, supporting gender dysphoria. Now, I know none of these three topics I just mentioned are the intent of our school teachers, principals, staff, or district. However, essentially, that is what is happening. Putting this in our youngest and most impressionable, innocent children's is the gateway to what? What comes next? That is my fear. I do hope the board takes a firm stance against offering such content in other media, such as the one presented on EPIC, in our classrooms, and that we stand together in these things. We are a diverse community of parents, and we need to come together to protect our children. We don't promote any of the other crazy is the wrong word, sorry guys. We don't promote any other mental health disorders in our schools, so why are we promoting gender dysphoria? I do have some questions for the board, and I know that you can't answer them here tonight, but how often are we reviewing this data, the data that we've previously approved as being okay? Online content gets pushed often, so do we have a policy in place where we are regularly looking into what new content is being pushed? Who reviewed the privacy policy for this particular app, EPIC? To what extent is the data mining occurring here for our children? What are the guidelines for approval? Where are the personal agendas of the people who are what are the personal agendas, if known, for the people who are pushing such content? I assume EPIC and other similar apps have an approval process of their own similar to that which we vet our things. How pure are their intents? And what parental consideration, if any, is taken into account when reviewing this content? I just wanted to thank the board for listening to me talk here tonight, and I know I've flooded your emails with some stuff, so when you have time, if you could respond to some other questions I've asked. I just one other thing I'm just curious about is what, if any, is the impact of EPIC and its impact on the reading of our students? Are they better off for or with it or without it, out of curiosity? So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Nancy Dulac, Old Milford Road, and I have a really quick thing to say, and that's ditto. Everything she said is what I would have loved to have said, and she said it better. And I know we've got such excellent schools here in Brookline, and we're so lucky, and especially after what we just went through with COVID, so many kids are so behind. Please let's stick to the academics and leave the social issues aside, especially for these young children. They're only little for a little while. Let them be little. Thank you.
Hi there. Excuse me, Matt Murray, Ride Out Lane here in Brookline. Moved to this town a few years ago. I have a young family. My kids are going to be entering the school system. We were excited about that, but in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of changes. The pandemic, just what's being taught in our schools. So it's been a little concerning to my wife and I. So we've kind of gone the homeschool route. I think we're going to go that route, but there's still a slight chance we might put our kids into public schools, which I'd like to. I'd like to have them experience what I did. I had a great education. I grew up in this area, and I want them to experience that as well. But what I'm seeing, kind of the indoctrination that's been being pushed into schools over the last several years is concerning to me. So I kind of share the same sentiments with my neighbors here. I don't want to see this stuff in the schools. I didn't grow up, at the age of 5 understanding what the word sex, transgender, and all that was. I grew up fine. I do pretty well. I'm a public servant. Thank you for your service. But yeah, I didn't grow up with this stuff, and I don't think my kids should either. Kids are very impressionable. When you tell someone at the age of 5 something once, they'll remember it. They don't forget it. I just think a lot of this content that these kids are seeing, and it seems like in this curriculum, I've only glanced through EPIC a little bit. I don't know what it's all about, if there's other tools that you guys are using. But certainly what I've seen so far is concerning to me. So just wanted to just come up, pretty much share the same sentiments that my neighbors have. And yeah, thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Jessica Hartman, 51 Mountain Road. I have worked as a substitute in the schools during COVID, and I had the pleasure of teaching with the kids, and when we've used EPIC before, I guess I just want to rest assured some of the sentiment today. Most of the time, the teacher specifically creates a library for the students, and they're picking specific books. So, for example, my son was working on a research project, and so the teacher would put in the library certain nonfiction research materials. So it's like their first entry into doing research without having to do it on their own, because they're young, and we are trying to specifically, say, okay, you can use these books, they're appropriate. Or for some of the other young kids in kindergarten, they would maybe use something that's like a spring collection, and it's all little books about springs and flowers. So I never saw any of these books that are being talked about. I don't know how, not to say that it's not accessible, I don't know that for a fact, but when I was in the schools with the teachers and with the students, I never saw this. Not to say that that doesn't happen, just more the idea that my child and both of my children have gone now through the whole elementary school and never came to me and said, this is what I learned in school today. I mean, it's mostly about the little libraries that they've used, and it was very helpful in the pandemic because it gave a lot of students who didn't have access to books at home that access, so that was wonderful. But that's just my opinion.
One more call if anyone else wants to speak. Otherwise, we will move to the principal's report, and this is a topic on the agenda in a few minutes as well. Okay, very good. Thank you for your feedback. With that, we're going to jump over to the principal's report.
We have Good evening. In our principal's report, we have our enrollment, current enrollment at both RMMS and CSDA. And currently in Brookline, we have 587 students in our two schools. This is upcoming month of May is going to be a very busy month for our classes at both RMS and CSDA. And we want to thank our wonderful PTO for their support and also our Brookline taxpayers for helping to afford these wonderful opportunities that the students will be partaking in. It gives us a chance to get back to normal, what we were doing prior to COVID as well. I want to thank also the Brookline Public Library because for the past few weeks, we've been having classes take walking field trips, which has been wonderful, to one of our community resources in town, which is great, the Brookline Public Library. And Tracy there and the staff there have been wonderful accommodating all of our classes. And every one of our classes from kindergarten through third grade are going. And also want to thank our teachers and the parents that have volunteered to safely escort the students down Milford Street and back. We start testing when we return from vacation week. And that's our New Hampshire statewide assessment system testing that we do for grades 3 through 8. So RMS will be testing for third graders, and at CSDA will be 4th, 5th, and 6th. The teachers have done wonderfully that are going to be proctoring, getting trained, and are ready to perform those assessments with the students. Early in May as well, we have Eyes on Owls. This is a program that's come to us in past years, and that's for our first grade. We have a kindergarten Zoom orientation for all new kindergartners to our schools. So in the past, we used to do a night, but what we've done recently in the last 2 years is a video with an overview of what kindergarten is and the orientation, and then we do a question and answer period via Zoom. So that'll be happening on May 6th. And then also our book fair will be going on May 9th, and thanks to the PTO for helping to coordinate that with the Scholastic Book Fair. And we've got Squam Lakes coming to us on May 17th. And the 18th, we've got Grade K, Bugs and Beetles. We are excited to bring back Tiger, and they're going to be doing a Kindness Speaks performance at RMS. That's going to be May 19th. Then we've got Mystic Aquarium, Grade 2, and then we've got the CSDA Book Fair early release, and then Grade 3 Mystic Aquarium. So really a lot of events going on in May. Be a fun month for the students. So. And we have the Brookline Bolts. Miss Hartman's about to jump out of her seat and run a marathon. And I believe that's on May 14th at CSDA. Oh, Beaver. I'm just going to let Jess tell you where it is. Okay. So it's a little plug, Brookline Bolts, Camp Tevia. It will be in our newsletter as well to update everybody. So, you're welcome.
And as far as our Brookline staffing needs, RMMS is still looking for 2 MTSS paraeducators, 3 educators for special education, and 2 custodians. CSDA staffing needs include a MTSS paraeducator for special education, and 1 custodian. For CSDA, I also added some photos in here. One is the CSDA's touch flat panel in action. That's a picture of Mr. Snoke, who's a grade 6 teacher. He's using our new 75-inch flat panel. It's an interactive panel in which you can just go up and touch it. It actually has 2 points of touch, which is great compared to the original smart boards, in the sense that you could actually, as an example, you could actually have 2 students go up to solve 2 math problems at the same time. And the other thing that actually, when I went in to observe this classroom at the time, students, first of all, it's a built-in computer, so you don't need to use a computer plugged into it. You also don't need a projector on the ceiling like you currently do with the smart boards. And it's interactive as well with the students' Chromebooks. So Mr. Snoke was teaching the lesson, and then he asked a student to show their screen. And they just clicked a button, and then the student's screen was there, so the student could share, what their work or accomplishment was to the rest of the class. So they're really enjoying that, and Mr. Snoke is going to become our professional teacher for the rest of the district. Also, another great donation from the PTO we now have a wolf mascot at CSDA. So now we'll have the rival mascots between RMMS and CSDA. And, well,
I think a wolf takes a blue jay, I'm just saying.
So we will be having, when we return from the April break, we will return and have a mascot naming contest for the students at CSDA. Now, so I can move on?
Can I just ask a
oh,
quick question?
Certainly.
And I feel like it might fall in here with a little bit of what we were talking about with shortages. So the bus schedule this year has, in the last couple of months, has been maybe chaotic's not too strong of a word, but every week there's some changes on a couple routes. Can we talk to the driving factor behind that, and are we behind that? Are we ahead of that? Are we through that now, or what's the expectation there?
I can share a little bit about that. It has to do with, we've got a nationwide shortage of bus
Yep.
drivers.
Yep.
But I would say our district does a really great job of employing bus drivers, and they are still training some new ones. What I've fielded for some questions from families, and it's an understandable one, is why doesn't it rotate? Why does it always say like bus 8? Why is bus 8 always the bus that is delayed? And the answer to that is because the bus drivers know certain routes, and we've got some bus drivers that do multiple routes, so they know those routes. And if we change a driver and do that rotation, they may not necessarily know the routes, the stops, the students getting off. So that's one of the reasons why there's sometimes not that rotation going through. And I've had that discussion with the bus company because I've asked them that same question, and that's the answer I've received. But Andy and Gina probably have some more updates as well. So.
Well, just in terms of the selection of the routes, part of the matter is some routes are longer, so you can't double that one up with another one because the kids would be waiting for far too long, or the kids would be on the bus for far too long. So bus 8, there is a high density of students in just a few stops. So it's an easier one to have as a second run if it has to be doubled.
So is it, and I appreciate that. So is it labor shortages that are happening? I guess here's the genesis of my question. Is there a way to make that? I don't mind. I happen to be on bus 8 and hear the talk at the bus stops. And I don't mind that delay at all, but it's the inconsistency that I struggle with, particularly working and having to manage that. Is there, like, if we're just going to do it every Thursday and Friday, that's great, but can we make it consistently just every Thursday and Friday and know that versus the change that happens midweek? I guess that's my question, to at least add some normalcy to it.
The issue comes back to the labor force. And we're facing not only a shortage, but then your potential COVID cases, normal sickness, and normal leaves. So when we start a week, we never know what's going to take place. I mean, the bus company is out advertising, working, and really when I talk to other superintendents, that's the only time I'm happy with our bus company. Because there are districts that are just simply finding out the morning of that bus whatever is not running because they don't have any drivers. And they'll run a loop, but it won't start until after all the other runs are done. So basically you're getting the notice if you can drive your child to school. So from my standpoint, the doubling in those things that I don't like, we do because it provides us a little more consistency than, say, the parent whose child goes out to the bus stop. Now you find out buses aren't running. You're maybe left for work because they're at that age where you feel comfortable to leave, but all of a sudden they're not at that age to be by themselves when there's no bus coming. Gina and I are in regular contact with Jen and trying to, again, what I call stabilize from week to week. We are seeing applications tick up. We are seeing the state do some work to assist with certification of drivers and background checks. And in the very near future, once you're a bus driver in Hollis Brookline, you're a bus driver certified for the state of New Hampshire. Because right now, let's say a bus driver left Merrimack and came to Hollis Brookline. They have to go through a whole nother series of trainings and a whole nother background check to do the same job they're doing over in Merrimack. So I commend the state for their efforts and working with the state police to try to streamline these things, to try to at least reduce our issues in the state of New Hampshire. But I think, getting through the school year is something that will be a challenge. We're going to struggle a little bit with some field trips, towards the end of the year, because we want to get those experiences back for children. But we also need buses back for school runs at the end of the day. So we'll try to have another update in May, and then give you at least some ideas of where we're heading.
That sounds great, and I appreciate all that. I figured it was probably labor shortages occurring at the last second. That's the only thing I guess I threw out there as potential feedback is if we build in attrition and just assume that there's going to be some kind of turnover and bus 8's going to be just delayed, that's understandable. It just the predictability would help more than anything. All right, thank you.
Tricia, back to you
Okay.
for.
Thank you. Okay, so with the concern on Epic, we went in and did a little review that we're going to present here. And basically, Epic is a free virtual library application with access to over 40,000 plus books that has been used by Brookline teachers and students since 2016. And from what I understand, it was heavily used, particularly during remote learning. Students and teachers may access Epic during school hours. Families have the ability to purchase their own account to be able to access it beyond those hours. Students log in with a class code or through their Google account access. When teachers set up their classroom account, they set up the grade and Lexile levels. Lexile levels are basically the readability levels for the student, and the grade levels are anywhere from pre-K through 7+. Teachers can create differentiated assignments based on the following. They look at the student's needs, the high-low interest and readability, word tracking, which means that the words would actually be highlighted as the student looks at the story, or the read-aloud audiobook. Teachers can track progress by daily reading minutes, as well as view the books that the students are reading or have read. Teachers can personalize collections of books that students can search, such as sports, transportation, animals, the water cycle, and the American Revolution, or biographies, just as a few topics. Also, I just want to make note that there are high-interest series included in it, such as the I Survived series, Boxcar Children, National Geographic, Weird But True, Captain Underpants, Wings of Fire, and the Beverly Cleary series. And just as an example, I brought some of those books here. For instance, we have the I Survived. And the I Survived could be, the eruption of Mount St. Helens in 1980, or I Survived a children's blizzard from 1888, which we have in our library, as well as Lemony Snicket's The Series of Unfortunate Events, The Diary of a Whimper Kid. So many of you may recognize some of these wonderful books that students access in our library. But we have one, maybe two copies. Through Epic, teachers are able to assign it to groups of students so that they're all reading the same similar book. And again, that you'll hear from when Mr. Molinari speaks about what the impact of that ability is on the students.
Sure. So we're just going to give you a little snapshot of how our teachers think about Epic and how they use it in their classrooms, just as a K through 6 perspective. So in kindergarten, Mrs. Everett had shared that without the Read to Me books through Epic, there's no easy way to let a classroom of kids learn about a subject of their choice. In first grade, Mrs. Dillon shared that Epic has been helpful during science, when starting or wrapping up a new topic. For example, when finishing the unit on light and sound, students were allowed to explore Epic to learn more about light and why we need light. In second grade, Mrs. LaFlemme shared, we are currently learning about poetry, and Epic has a great collection of poetry books. And in third grade, Mrs. Worth had stated that Epic is the primary resource for partner and small group reading. Multiple students can access the same text, similar to what Mrs. Boulay was just sharing about the multiple texts. And then on to CSDA, Mrs. Mataluski, one of our special education case managers, shared that she can assign audiobooks on Epic for students to listen to in the classroom during independent reading time. Mrs. Davis, a grade 4 teacher at CSDA, shared that Epic allows for students to listen to proper reading fluency, which is great for her struggling readers. It provides excellent resources for various research topics. It's allowed students to foster personal relationships with other students in the classroom setting, as it can give them a commonality to talk about when it comes to those high-interest books. She also shared that students love the genre tool and will sit with students to help them pick out certain books that they might like. She notes that she can then go on and assign those books to children during that time. She reports she is constantly circulating to ensure that students are on proper material. Ms. Meehan, a grade 4 teacher at CSDA, has stated that audiobooks are great for struggling readers to follow along with it, as it uses real voices instead of a robotic monotone. We use it for our animal projects in science back in September, biography projects, our fantasy unit, nonfiction, text features, and structures. And then Mr. Putnam, grade 6 teacher, identified that in helping students to find books, he's teaching students how to develop systems and strategies for interviewing books by understanding their purpose for selecting specific texts. For specific units of study, he will create with students collections of texts for students to choose books from.
In terms of the process, when there's a request from a teacher to use something, either an app or technology, they make a formal request. It a lot of times comes through the principal or it comes to the assistant superintendent. We look at it through multiple lenses. The business manager is on that committee to find out the cost. The assistant superintendent's there to see how it relates to curriculum and how we'll use it with curriculum. And the IT individual is there to make sure that it lines up with our protocols. It matches the corresponding age. So they vet what the publishers will say for an age. You know, it might be recommended ages 13 and up. So if we're going to use it and it was with a group of 12-year-olds, the teacher is going to send home a special permission at that grade to make parents aware. We understand that in a collection of 40,000 books, just like in a collection at the public library, there are items that don't mesh with every family. It's not our intent to be pushing any agenda, all right? But at the same time, it's our intent to support everybody who sends children to our school. The program itself is hearing about this, so they're looking at what I would call a hide feature, and how that could be utilized by a teacher to kind of set more parameters around that. We don't know all the details on that. We regularly review these programs. They're listed on our webpage, everything we use, and we send home a permission at the beginning of the year saying these are all the things we're going to use. Now, at the same time, as a parent, I've often signed that document and sent it back in and not had the time to look at all 40,000 books that exist in this library. I want the board to be assured that we hear the concerns, because we respect everybody's concerns, and that we put this out tonight to address it quickly in a public setting. And we'll continue to review this and really kind of go back to our teachers, go back to the approval committee, and really take it a closer look at this, see what other features this offers. I have a funny feeling in a few years we may not have this program, because I believe that at some point they're going to start charging. And I'm not sure if it's, you know, it depends on where they set the cost. But as a free program, right now, the value of how we use it as a school district to enhance our board-approved curriculum allows us to really interact with children. So to give you an example that I've seen, Gina and I can be in the same class. I could be a struggling reader, and my book, which is the exact same as her book, is reading to me. So I'm getting the same content, I'm getting the same understanding, I'm following along, I'm learning the process. Prior to features like this on the computer, Gina and I might have separate books, and that in itself can allow a child to feel isolated because they're not reading with their peers. And sometimes that snowballs into the image that I'm not a good reader. We just don't all read at the same pace at the same time, and everything's about our developmental nature. So we wanted to put this out tonight. We'll gladly take any questions the board may have. And I can assure you we'll go back and do our yearly reviews of everything that we do around curriculum. And if the board wants to see it on the agenda at a future date, we're happy to do that again. If the board wants an update at a future point, that's fine too.
Thank you. So I just want to circle back on what you said, Andy. So the request came in this month. We wanted to be transparent about everything this month, which is why we put it on the agenda. You can see that we're going to look at the process, and we have some understanding there. We've got some good feedback from the teachers, which appreciate that, and running that to ground. I guess what I'd ask is if there are specific questions based on this overview, we'd like to hear them. And we look at the need to discuss this again. I can think that's kind of where my head's at. I can appreciate some content being of concern, and I definitely understand that. The other side of me looks at a library of 40,000. It seems like a heck of a tool. We've got good feedback, and it sounds like there may be some in between there that we can still use this in a very meaningful way. And maybe there's a hide feature for some things that we want to look at. But one thing that jumps out to me, and I just want to reiterate it, is the content in question, which I appreciate, was not the curriculum that's being used in the classroom. And I just want to make sure I'm saying that right and confirmation, because I think we want to draw a line between what the curriculum is, because we just heard that, versus what's available in a tool set, which would be similar to if you go to a public library, you go on YouTube, you go on Google, there's always questionable stuff out there, but we're not pushing that. And that's where, as a board, that's, to me, my feeling is we got to make sure that our curriculum aligns to what we've discussed. And I'm not hearing that as in the curriculum. So I still think we need to look at it, but that's based on what we've just heard tonight, that's my initial brush. I want to open it up for other discussion too, certainly. And I also just want to make sure everyone's hearing, we will review this again too.
I appreciate parents being involved in guiding their children's reading. It's being active, involved in your child's education, knowing what they're reading is important, and knowing that what they have access to is important as well. So if there is something that is, say, assigned, it's curriculum aligned, that a parent doesn't feel like that's appropriate for their child, are there mechanisms for them to opt out or hide that for their child?
Absolutely. So any parent can object to curricular resources. Depending on what the particular resource is. For example, there was a concern about a book that was read in 8th grade. We put together a committee, we reviewed it, made recommendations, and put changes in place. In addition, if there's just a specific concern for your own child, a different resource that meets the same standards is put in its place. So the first step would be to reach out to the teacher. The next step would be to the building principal, and then it goes from there. So we absolutely manage those requests regularly.
Can you just pull that so that the television can hear you too?
Sorry. I spent some time on the EPIC website and also speaking with my wife, who happens to be a first grade teacher in Massachusetts, who used EPIC a lot during the pandemic and currently still does. And I appreciate that some of the benefits for them are, if you have a child who has a visual disturbance, has low vision, they can change the font of the book, they can zoom in, they don't need a special set of books that are just for them. They can use, as Andy was saying, the same tools. And it first came to my attention that about the ABC's book, and when I heard Patricia saying that they're assigned to students based on their Lexiles or their reading groups, even though that book says it's for kids 0 to 5, the Lexile is actually 40, which would be a 3rd or 4th grade reading level. So not only is it not being assigned, it would not be assigned to kids who are 0 to 5. And when I was asking my wife about that, she said the only thing she could think of is that ABC books are typically targeted to 0 to 5, but that it does have a Lexile, and which means that it's appropriate for a higher grade level student. I also was looking and it appears that in the parent version, like so what Candace purchased for her home during the pandemic, so you could have access to the books at home, that when a parent purchases access to it, you actually can hide titles. So I think that's part of the subscription service, so that as a parent, if there's content that you don't want accessible to your child at home, where things aren't being assigned, but they have access to the full realm, as a parent, you can go in and you can hide, content areas or certain titles or certain authors. If you don't like Diary of a Wimpy Kid because you hate all the potty talk.
Oh, the worst.
The worst. Loaded diaper. You can hide that poor author from Massachusetts. So I just wanted to say that I did do some research into this because I think it is concerning if parents have concerns. And again, to make the same distinction that Ken made, that it's not accessible during the school day, it's not part of the curriculum, but it's something that's accessible through browsing and searching.
So my question for you guys would be, are parents able, outside of the school day, to look at what their kids are looking at in their assigned curriculums? So if they go home, they're working on whatever assignments within the school day. When they get home, are they able to look at, if Mr. Putnam assigns whatever nonfiction reading, can they go home and say, hey, this is what we're looking at on EPIC?
That, I think, would be based on if you put the collections together, and typically the teachers, I believe, link it to their Google Classroom. So then they would probably be listed there. I'll have to verify that, but that would typically be the collection that he would pull together.
Okay, just because I think that's would be a good frame of reference, so then, that would give parents the ability to look at the material and say, okay, I know my kids are looking at X, Y, and Z, or the teacher sending out the notification saying, hey, we're gonna be accessing EPIC. You can talk to your kids about getting onto Google Classroom and showing you what books we're looking at, or giving you a list of the books that are going to be in there, and if you have an objection to them. I get it's another layer of work for teachers. That does not escape me by any stretch of the imagination.
We did.
But it's there.
When we were home, my daughter had a login, and I could see everything that was assigned to her, because we have the home version, we have the school version, different logins, and I was able to see exactly what was assigned to her collection when she did her school account. So,
There you go.
Right, the only thing is that's only available from 7 to 3. So now that we're not at home, that is
okay,
a
so
limited
that's
feature.
that's the question.
Right,
Okay,
good to know.
thank you. That's
Yeah,
kind of where I
you
was
get
going
one
with it.
book off of not school hours. I was testing it last night, and after the first one, you're shut out of Epic until school hours under the school.
So that's good to know too.
Yeah.
So there's limited access if you do not buy into the subscription for after school hours.
Correct.
That's good to know. And to bring up the concern over teaching mental health in schools. I'm a huge advocate of teaching mental health in schools. You guys know this. You've seen me around for a while. So, yeah, this is a personal, I'm going to try and leave my personal, professional hat at the door. But I'm going to assume that at all levels, that we're still teaching Choose Love. To some degree, right? Do we use over at RMMS anything like zones of regulation or some other kind of SEL? So we're teaching about how to manage our emotions, how to deal with when we're not feeling great, how to deal with when we're feeling really sad, and how to deal with our friends when they're feeling sad. So we do deal with mental health because that's one of the most critical things we can deal with. Because if our kids aren't mentally healthy within our school, they can't learn. So it's critical. A DSM, a Diagnostics and Statistics Manual, into here, because it's not appropriate. Because unless you have your PsyD, You shouldn't be using it. Not appropriate in here. We should be teaching social emotional learning. We should have access for the parents to know what their kids are learning. I don't have kids doing that and having their parents limit what they're learning. Just as I, even if I agree or don't agree with it, I think they should have access to all sorts of reading material. Whether I believe in their religious beliefs of other cultures, I think they should have access to it. Because if they can't learn about it, they can't know anything more. I don't have to agree with it. Yes, should it be based on their age level? Absolutely. And you're right. This is where parents need to be involved. So if you're like watching out for it, fantastic. I think that's awesome. Because you need to be involved and looking out for it. Your school is not the only person that should be sitting there and monitoring everything all the time. I do not want to censor anything because I don't want to censor this so that I don't have to censor that, because the next thing you know, I might be censoring what you love. I don't want to be that person. So, I said I wouldn't.
So I think the takeaway is we've been in a COVID environment. We're not anymore. Fortunately, we're working about COVID protocols, so we can spend time a little more on curriculum. This is a great topic to start with. I think we continue in the board meetings. What jumps out to me a little bit is we're a transaction or transection of, the digital literacy and the capability of kids being online, and that's here's another example of it. And we just want to make sure we're navigating that properly, and we'll keep this conversation going. Does that seem reasonable for now, for the starter today? And yeah, go ahead.
Can I just ask a further question of Gina? When, or Andy, I guess, when materials are reviewed, if it's a book or a literary, I'm guessing a lot of curricula is literary or has to do with English language arts, are librarians part of that review committee?
So the committee that the superintendent was discussing is the data governance team,
Okay.
where we have the data governance plan. We provide all of our resources available on our technology page. Parents sign off on that. Every Thursday, we read every privacy policy, every terms of service. It's really good reading right there. But we say no to a lot, and we certainly don't make friends from this committee. But and if we say no, we say here's an alternate resource, whether it's the price is better, we already have a subscription, the age is more appropriate, we don't have to provide PII, whatever it is, we have our set of standards that are available to the data governance team. So for curricular resources within a grade level team, so you have grade level teams working sometimes with the librarian, sometimes without, with new reading materials. We ask that so the team is on board with that, so there's a level of awareness and agreement that it's appropriate content for the grade level and the intended purpose of the reading material. So it's not, one person making decisions in isolation.
And I want to make it clear that our parents are very involved, which is outstanding.
Yeah.
And if something's brought to our attention that they have a concern with, we will provide an alternative assignment. We do that K to 12.
Yep.
And there are students parents who choose not to participate in our health curriculum, seek alternative books. And what we do is we just make sure that the book that's being suggested by the parent or that we're recommending meets the standards. Because we're a standards-based curriculum based on the state standards. And anybody that's listening at home, if they have a concern, they just need to reach out, just like tonight.
Yeah.
This all started because of an email. We're happy to bring forth and let you know our procedures. We're happy to review anything, because again, this community overwhelmingly supports us in what we do, and we want to make sure we're kind of guiding in our students in the vision of the community.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we're going to close on that topic. Again, thank you for the feedback tonight. Like I said, we will continue these conversations. What I'd offer, to what Andy just said too, I mean, certainly reach out to the administration if you have questions, or you can reach out to the board, or both, whatever. We'll consolidate that and make sure that we keep the conversation going and be transparent about everything. Thank you. With that, we have a host of other items to go over tonight, so we'll start with committee appointments. And I think that falls to me. So I have the lists right here. Thank you, everyone. And I'm just going to read these out loud and make sure I have everything right, and we'll have that documented for our 2022-2023 year. The SAU Contract Committee will be Karen Jew. The Brookline School District Policy Committee will be Karen Jew. We have lots more to go here. The Brookline Finance Committee will be Allison Marsano. The Teacher Luncheon will be Colleen Mikovic and Kelly Zakar. Zakar? How do
Zacher.
Zacher. Gotta get it right.
Like Packers.
Zacher. Thank you. I'll get that right forever now. SAU 41 Governing Board Policy Committee is Karen Jew. Excuse me. The SAU 41 Governing Board Budget Committee is Allison Marsano. School and Town Services Committee is Ken Haig. The Facilities Study Committee, or Construction Projects Renovations Project Working Group, is Kelly Zakar. Darn it.
Zacher. Packers.
I failed. Kelly Zacher.
Thank you.
Our negotiating team that we talked about earlier with the Teachers Administration, the Teachers Union that we'll be taking on this year will be Ken Haig and Colleen Mikovic. And the Superintendent Evaluation Lead will be Kelly Zacher. Pause on it every time now. Okay, so we've got all those documented now. That covers all of the committees. I made sure we were tight with our SAU side, and that does cover everything for the year. So thank you, everyone, for volunteering, and looking forward to all that. Okay, so our next piece is the revenue and expense update.
All yours, Donna.
Thank you. Okay, so in March, when we reviewed the revenue expense report, we had a projected fund balance of $84,271 before funding the trusts and retained balance fund for FY23. As you know, we have been on a freeze, so by maintaining the freeze on the budget and being able to close some of the encumbered POs, we've been able to reduce our overall expenses this past month by about $30,000. Although expected revenue looks to be increasing from what was budgeted, we currently have an anticipated unreserved fund balance of $106,557. With this amount, we're able to fund the FY23 trusts that were voted in on March, which is the $75,000 maintenance and the $25,000 special ed. And this would leave only $6,557,000 to fund the retained fund balance, which leaves no balance at all to return to the taxpayers. So that is why, based on Kelly's memo from March, from the March meeting, she made the recommendation to use $125,000 from the special ed trust fund. And I've been told the public hearing is going to be scheduled in May to determine how much the board wants to use to offset the FY22 expenses.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions with that at all?
What we will do in May, we'll publicize a public hearing, which is part of using the special ed trust. We'll get a final update prior to opening the public hearing, so the board is aware. And then what we will do is we will approve what I would call an up to number, because obviously with June still to go and some positions, as you heard tonight, still being unfilled. I know since this report was created, we finally closed the snowplow line, and we had a good winter, so there was some savings from that. So again, this will continue to go down. The goal is to fund the unretained fund balance, and the reason we would fund that is the board's safety net should something happen. And just to remind the voters, a couple of years ago, we used to have a contingency fund, and we did away with that when the community adopted the retained fund balance. So Kelly will produce another memo in May. As I said, we'll cover that before the public hearing, so you'll have the information you need. and then we'll take any input from the public during the public hearing, and then we'll close that, have a discussion, and make the motion on what action to take.
Great, thank you. Okay, we are at the facilities updates. Great.
Yes. In your packet, I wanted to provide you, first of all, with the summer projects, okay? And you have in front of you all the summer projects across the SAU because it just makes our life easier to function. And on some occasions, like paving and things like that, there are projects that are consolidated together, even though they're different districts, just for more buying power. But in Brookline, the elevator, the security office, the library, and the classrooms, and the second floor above the security office, you will get some drawings in May. We have met from what I call the educational side of the house. So that means that their architect has sat down with Dan and says, oh, you know, what do you want in the library? What's the purpose of the library? How do you want it set up? Those type of pieces. With the second floor, where the stairway is coming out at RMMS, you know, what do you want to utilize that space for? So we've discussed a number of things. Now the architects, as I say, go back and they do their magic. And then between now and our May meeting, we'll have a facilities committee construction group meeting, which we'll be sending out invite. And that will focus now more on the nuts and bolts. And a couple final pieces of information we're waiting for. RMS was built many years ago, and back then there were 2 ways to pour concrete. Now we have one similar way. So next week during vacation, they'll come in and they'll take an x-ray of the wall, so we know exactly what we're talking about for a construction method, which goes back about 60 years. So that will be some fun pieces.
Discovery.
Some discovery. And that discovery, as always, can go in our favor
Yeah.
or can go against us. But either way, it's something we just have to know so we can carry the load. We have settled on what's called a Lulu lift. And a Lulu lift is a 2-person elevator, basically. We have one at the middle school, so it's something that we use regularly. You'll see it's quite common in schools. This allows for, say, a paraprofessional and a student who is, say, in a wheelchair to be in that elevator at the same time and move up to the second floor. We will also be updating security, because right now when you come into RMMS, you come into that basement area and there's no place to check in. There'll be a security booth right there. And a parent who needs to drop something off or that can take care of that right there, will not need to go into the main building. So the child would be signed in, all set, up the stairs goes the child goes into the school. I want to thank Lance Fittamore, our facilities director, for all his efforts up to this point. Dan has been instrumental in attending the educational meetings to really kind of put his vision of RMMS into this. And we're also going to be tying this project into the discussion we heard earlier tonight about the new boards, the new smart boards. So we'll be looking to expand on those at RMMS. We'll have a wonderful teacher on site in Greg Snoke, and he will become the resident expert. We've done a number of things with professional development, and we've found that one-shot deals don't really work, because I went, I listened, I paid attention, and then I got back and I forgot everything. This way, Greg's just a building away or an email away, and he can come back and catch somebody up. So we're really excited about that. Also, we'll be resealing our parking lots based on our regular CIP plan. At RMMS, excuse me, we'll be getting 3 new sets of tables. We have a couple that are concerning to us, and the middle school is going to be updating their tables as well. So as a temporary fix with those extra tables that concern us, the middle school tables will be delivered to RMMS to alleviate any safety concerns and make it much easier on our custodians. We'll get our regular shipment of playground mulch. We're going to do a number of pieces of trim replacement over at RMMS. We have some push bar replacements for safety doors, window and balance seals, gutter and storm drains, and a significant amount of classroom flooring. At CSDA, we'll be purchasing a new snow blower for next winter. We will be doing a number of window balance and seals. We have a flooring specialist coming in to take care of some work. We will be refinishing the gym floor, and we'll be doing 2 sets of exterior doors. The gym floor is one of those examples where we have to do multiple gyms across the district. Getting one company in for that same week period really goes in our favor. So there's going to be an awful lot going on this summer. It's very exciting. We have made a decision that we will be moving the summer programs from RMMS to CSDA because of the amount of construction and construction workers and safety issues. It's not ideal. In Hollis, we had to move everything to the middle school for the summer because of the amount of construction. So Dan and I have reached out to the Brookline after-school program, who also runs the summer program, and trying to coordinate that with them because they're so used to using RMMS and getting access to the lake in different places. And CSDA is just that little bit further away. So we'll see if we can work with them and make it all happen. And I'll take any questions on facilities.
Please.
Andy, can I ask about the Lulu lift? Is that, obviously if there's a para with a student who's in a wheelchair, I'm assuming the para doesn't have any mobility issues, but I'm wondering if the student is on crutches or has other type of instability, is that a safe lift for them to use from a standing posture? Is there like something for them to hold on to, or?
It's a unique name, but it's an old-fashioned elevator.
Okay.
You know, so it's not like, if you went to the middle school beside the stage,
Yep,
there's a lift,
Yep.
it's a platform.
yep,
That's not what this is.
okay,
This is the one, if you were going up to the middle school library, on the left, it's a traditional elevator.
oh, yep,
It's just called a Lulu lift because of its size, and it's not built to hold, like we would see at the doctor's office, 8 or 10 people.
yep, okay. Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Question about, is the mulch, like, I don't know why this is even a question in my head, at RMMS, is that like rubber mulch?
Yes.
It is, right? Just out of curiosity, because that's a newer in the last like 4 years, right?
Yeah, we've had about 4 years of it, yep.
How's that holding up in terms of washing away and things like that? Loss.
Well, it definitely holds up better than the wood chips because the wood chips, they just get worn away. Now those wash away. If anything, we just need to maybe bump up our barriers a little bit because they do wash away a little bit with the snow. So if you go to the far structure, you'll see some of the blue mulch on our grass, but that's easily rakeable back.
Okay.
But we find it provides a better cushion than what we've typically used the wood mulch. And every year you have to replace the wood mulch, whereas this, we just have to do a top seal over the rubber mulch.
Absolutely. I know it, like insurance-wise, it's a thinner layer and everything else that we are required. And that's why I was kind of curious how it was, it's been several years now, so I was kind of curious if we were having any different, like, loss that we would have with the wood. And that's just out of a,
I know
it's more
it's
expensive in theory to keep replacing it if we were having the same level of loss. Sure.
From an insurance standpoint, though, because we had Peastone too, right? And I think that was one of the recommendations was to get rid of that
Yeah.
and help with our insurance premiums too. So while unit cost is probably more, total cost when you look at insurance too is probably.
No,
you know,
absolutely.
And
I
I
was
know
just
you.
kind of
yeah.
curious, like, how it was,
Yeah, so
how
for
they're
the-
doing with it.
so-
I'll have my son bring some back. I mean, every day he has a whole
Finish
foot
shoe,
shoe
yeah.
full, so I can
That's
start
what it's
collecting
called.
it.
Yeah, sometimes I see in the hallways, I'm
Let's
like,
go to your house.
Yeah,
then.
I'll
That's
start
what we'll do.
collecting it. It's just going in the trash
so
right
yeah,
now.
I've actually have kids bringing it out back to the playground just to replenish because
Got it.
but it goes back to the depth of cushion. So for wood mulch, you need about 9 inches of thickness. With the rubber mulch, it's 6 inches. So you get a different depth of cushion too.
Thank you.
And just one quick question on, do we have contractors lined up for the summer already for like the lift and the downstairs and no concerns around that, or is that still in process?
Right now, the schedule will be, when school gets out, we will, current library,
Okay.
then we will take care of installing the new wall to divide that into 2 classrooms.
Okay.
Then we'll go through a period of standstill. And then the major work on the lower level starts in July. There's, again, with supply chain issues, I wouldn't be shocked if we were still working on that, but we will take all the necessary precautions. If we were to go into the school year with construction workers in there, we've done that in Hollis. If it's something that would be a safety issue, we would go to a second shift so that we finish school, all the kids would leave, we would go to a second shift. But we should have more details really coming up now that we've got the educational side of the house done.
Okay, great, thanks.
Next, with the board's permission, I'll move on to the strategic plan. What you have in your packet is what is the first draft for the evolution of our strategic plan. It's kind of the master roadmap that we follow, and it's what we work with the administrators every year at the administrative retreat as far as where we're going. What we do is we work off of SAU goals, and we do that because we want to look through the lens of a child. And then what we have is what we call implementation goals. So just looking at number 1, SAU 41 will strive to continually improve each student's level of achievement and growth. So that's what we're trying to do, K to 12 as one SAU. In Brookline, the Brookline district will ensure the curriculum, instruction, and assessment are designed and delivered to enable diverse learners to achieve or exceed Brookline grade level standards. And that implementation goal, you could take out Brookline, you could put in Hollis. And we have been on this trajectory since I've arrived. I inherited the strategic plan. This will be our first update. It was a 5-year strategic plan when I arrived. We were probably a little over a year to a year and a half behind on that, and then in the mix, we've had COVID. So what we're doing there is realigning our major goals, and by keeping those constant, then we have 2 pieces. We give us the stability to move forward, so when there's a change in leadership or a change in board, we're not restarting all over. You know, we're not getting rid of the Envision Mass program because a new principal came in and wants a new program. There's a process for everything, and we're very much about process and procedures and policy. So a couple of the other highlights, jumping down to what will be, again, a reorganization of the goals. Will probably end up as goal 3 is to recruit, recognize, and develop the most effective personnel. We're very fortunate, as you saw tonight in our hiring, we have a balance, some people with master's step 10, and some people right out of college. And that's what we really look to do, because then we keep our flow of building experts constant. You know, so when people retire, if we only filled with entry-level people, we lose all that historical knowledge. So by bringing some people in at that mid-level from other districts, they get to understand our culture and our curriculum, but they already have the skill set and the leadership capabilities. One of the girls that was recommended and approved tonight runs like 4 committees at her school, you know, besides being a teacher. And she does a number of different things, and when we looked at it from a perspective of the building, it gives us another resource to cultivate as we, again, look at, in the next few years, we're going to see another wave of retirements. And we try to go from a goal to a priority area, and the goal is not to address everything every year. The goal is Brookline will address what the Brookline administration, the Brookline board feels are the greatest needs. Balance that with the budget, because what we're really going to do, what we've been doing since I've been here, is we don't make a budget. We have a strategic plan, what we want to do educationally, and then we fit the budget to meet those priorities. And there have been times when we've sat here and we're over budget, we're too high. So when we make those cuts, it's kind of based on a strategic plan. What are we delaying? What are we intentionally delaying that we can do, or maybe pilot or roll out without it becoming all-encompassing? The only goal that we've added since the original one developed in 2013 was a goal around that you'll see in future iterations is rich co-curricular activities. Because that's such a huge piece of our two towns, whether it be utilizing our facilities for Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, to Eagle Scout projects, to sports teams, to whatever it may be. That's who we are. And we want our kids involved in service and getting to understand what it means to belong to a community and give back to a community. So that is the only new goal that we're adding. And I chose that because that's something I've witnessed firsthand since I've been here. You know, I mean, I've been other places where it's a rare occurrence to have an Eagle Scout project. Here, a lot of times we're trying to figure out how do we allow everybody who wants to do a project to do a project, which is a nice problem to have. So this is going to come back up at the SAU meeting. You'll probably see it again with some more tweaking in May. Hopefully around July, we'll kind of approve probably as close to the final draft as we can, because then it will be ready for our work in August when we start to go into our planning. And if you remember, for members who have been on the board a couple of years now, we coordinate all the goals to what we call buckets. And there's all sorts of buckets, and that's how we categorize them. When you see us present the strategic plan, they'll talk about the different buckets, and it's, because one of our themes is always filling kids' buckets. You know, we want kids to be getting everything they need, so how do we fill their bucket, whether it's Gina's area of expertise in curriculum, it's leadership under Trish and Dan and what they want for a culture for their building. What are we seeing coming out of the pandemic from a behavioral standpoint that we need to make steps for next fall? Because as I've told the board already, there have been a number of occasions this year where we've seen an uptick on behaviors and inappropriate comments, pushing and shoving that goes beyond just what's developmentally appropriate. So we need to plan for that because, again, it's getting better. We're making progress, but this has been a very difficult 2 years on many of these young adolescents. So any questions about the first draft out there to kind of start that framework for anybody?
I just want to say, I love it. I think it's fantastic. I'm going through strategy stuff right now, and this is awesome. I just doing.
I consult.
And
You're not going anywhere.
I love the idea of doing this, and kind of to our discussion earlier, I think this can be the guidepost. I know it is the guidepost for you without a question, but in our agenda building even, you know, I think now that we were so fighting a fire for 2 years, we can get back to curriculum and strategy again, and I think this is going to be great. So thank you, all of you, for your efforts on this.
Thank you. Anything else before I move on? Don't want to rush things. Last day of school, June 17th, half day, which is traditional for us. We're all excited about that, and that means Brookline teachers finish Monday.
Monday the 20th.
One thing I want to put in the board's thought process is we have the new federal holiday, 19th of June. And how do we want to approach that in the future? This year it's on a Sunday. I've kind of had some discussions with the unions. I don't know if adding an extra day is what they want to do. All right, so we're still having that dialogue. But I do think we need to address it because there'll be many years where we're in school, and it may be something that from an educational standpoint, that isn't the best day or the most useful time of year for us. But at the same time, we need to figure out how we're going to recognize that and make our students and community aware of that. So just in the back of your mind more for the next calendar. We did take care of it in negotiations with the support staff union, and they wanted actually the day around the winter break, because if you're a support staff person, that's your longest stretch without a paycheck. So having a holiday in there, it allows them to get income. And we'll have those discussions with the professional teachers when we go into negotiations this year. Okay.
So what does a half day mean? What from a, I never, I know it's always like one release and I just can't keep, what is it, like 11?
So
or is it 12?
Bus
we're
day will be late.
yeah.
Bus day will be there. It will be
About 8 a.m.
3:55. Ken, 3:55.
No, so it's not the same time as early release. So early release, we serve lunch. This is a lunch-free day.
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah.
And the specific times will come out once we finalize them with the bus company, as it's been a couple years since we've had a half day, so.
Right.
Okay, great. So it's 17th.
Yes.
Awesome.
Just as a reminder, I want to hand out Kelly's memo for the pre-K, because we added that deliberative item. The
Thanks.
same memo you had last month. I need your signature on those. deliberative.
Okay.
Andy, can I ask a question about the calendar?
Sure.
I had and I don't know if this would be something that maybe the board could like provide like as an advisory piece to teachers or people who are planning field trips or examinations. But there was a request to have some consideration for Jewish holidays in terms of when exams are scheduled, when there might be field trips or other like co-curricular things scheduled. Looking at the calendar for next year, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur don't fall until the end of September, beginning of October, so at least we're not dealing with like the first days of school like we were last year or the year before. But I wonder, is there some sort of guidance or that we can provide to teachers?
Yes, and so we actually talked about that today in leadership. We go ahead and make sure that we plan our open houses around the holidays, and the information that goes out to our teachers is to remind them of the dates and be flexible and not to schedule exams, et cetera. It's historically more of an issue with homework and larger exams at the co-op than it is in elementary. So if there's ever been an occasion where someone feels like that hasn't been respected or acknowledged, it very well was an oversight, and certainly that is not our intention. But yes,
Okay.
we absolutely take those into consideration.
Okay, and the parent was mentioning also like not just days that students might be out of school, but like some celebrations happen at night, and I don't know if that would also be a consideration for Muslim students who might be up eating late during Ramadan because they don't break their fast until sundown. For late arrivals the day after Passover or Ramadan, and if those dates, are those all dates that you have in the calendar that you were discussing with leadership, or is that something that?
We have a number of the local clergy
Okay,
from a variety of faith that assists us. But if there's somebody you were speaking to that has a concern, if they could email us, because
Okay.
we're not always aware of every tradition or the exact times, we're happy to take that in consideration, because we do ask teachers to respect that, and let's not give a major test on a certain day or the day after a certain event. It's just not fair to any of us. And I think overall, I think it goes well, but I'm sure because of the schedule, just like trying to schedule open houses and different dates, and working around board meetings, conflicts between schools, because we obviously don't want to have the middle school in Brookline the same night, because so many parents would be obligated to both. So it sounds like we have a lot of dates, but it gets difficult. So
Sure.
if they just reach out, I'd be happy to take that email and work with them.
okay, thank you.
The last couple items for tonight, the first one is, in non-public, I had provided the board with recommendations for administrative salary, and then we added the pre-K memo that I just handed out. If it's okay with the board, I'll just start with the pre-K memo.
Sounds good.
As we informed you last month, Kelly is recommending that we increase the tuition rate for the preschool. And in 22-23, we go up to $2,500, 23-24 to $2,600, 24-25 to $2,700, or $100 per year over the next 3 years. These will help to increase offset increasing costs. They do not cover it. And then Kelly's also going to build in a 5-year review so that we don't kind of get too far behind. And again, that's part of that strategic plan and the policies and procedures. We want to make sure we have things in so there's, if this isn't a sitting board, we still know in 5 years, we're up for that review. So I'll turn it over to the chair for a motion on that.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion. It's not in here, so bear with me. Make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation regarding the tuition increase of $100 per year over the next 3 school years and a review every 5 years, starting with 2030.
I would add preschool to that.
For preschool tuition. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm making a motion to raise the preschool tuition by $100 per year over the next 3 school years, starting in 2022, 2023 at $2,500, and have a review every 5 years, starting in 2030. Does that sound good?
Second.
Thank you. So that's on the floor. Any further discussion?
Have families already enrolled for the 2022-2023 school year?
So we have a cohort, so our current 3-year-old group will automatically go as a cohort to the 4-year-old group. And then our preschool program is dependent upon our special education population. So we're still looking at what we have for referrals coming in. And then we tend to let families know sometime in June if they have a place in the program. But certainly throughout the spring, we get calls pretty regularly about their spot on the wait list.
Okay.
And right now, we have wait lists all the way out to 2026 for preschool.
Okay, so no, sorry, I just wanted to make sure that there aren't people who've like been accepted or signed up expecting one tuition and then.
Oh, yep, we haven't shared that information yet with the new families. Yep.
Okay. The other question I had was, in general, like, I know it's a pretty small group of kids in both the 3 and the 4-year-old program. Could you characterize, like, is there a percentage of families that have a difficult time with the tuition, or?
I really don't have the answer to that. Yeah, I mean, if there's.
What I would say is we have encountered financial hardships after people have been enrolled.
Okay.
And then Dan and I have worked with the families because their child has already developed that sense of belonging to
Yep.
that group. And we've been very fortunate, and parents have been very willing to work with us. I think we've been successful in.
Yeah, I would say we've seen that a lot with when we had kindergarten
Yeah.
Yeah.
program. We did a lot with that. It just hasn't happened so much in the preschool.
Okay.
Because a lot of times what we see is the families that want to enroll in our preschool, they want to get into our preschool, so they're ready to pay for it.
Yeah.
Or if they don't have a spot, they're ready to pay for a private preschool.
Right.
But we certainly saw that, and like Andy said, we would help out
Yep.
how we could with scholarship and such.
This is probably, I mean, it's been a long time since I paid for preschool.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm guessing this is like considerably less than paying for private preschool.
This is
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
taking into account people's.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair question. Okay, any other commentary?
No, just, I like you building in a 5-year policy to review it. It's good.
Okay, let's put it to a vote. All in favor? 4-0. Thank you.
And the last one to the board chair is just the recommendations for the administrative contracts, which Don had put the motion
Yep,
in the board.
great. So I will make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation regarding the nomination of school administrators. Need a second, please?
Second.
Seconded. I think we universally were aligned in non-public, so I'm going to put it to a vote. All in favor? 4-0. Very good. Okay, so the last one is motion to adjourn, so I'll make the motion to adjourn at 8 o'clock.
Second.
All in favor?
You sure about
4-0. 8 o'clock. Gina wanted to talk further. No?
What's that?
Did you just say, are you sure?
Oh, yeah, I said, are you sure?
I thought you wanted to keep talking.
No, no, you just were so quick about that.
And cookies,